Hello, today we'll be simplifying powers. What we have in these two examples right here is basically the power of a power. There is something called the power of a power property that tells me that whenever I simplify this, the base is going to stay the same. And for knowing the exponent, what I need to do is multiplying this exponent times the exponent outside of the parentheses. So in this case, here would be the result of 6 times 3. Let's evaluate that. I know that 6 times 3 is 18, so this right here will be the simplified form of this power right here. Now, the next example is very similar. However, notice that we have a negative number right here. So I'm bringing down my variable, the base a, that's going to stay like that, a. Now, negative 2 times 5 will result on a negative number, in this case, negative 10. However, an important part of simplifying powers is that I get rid of any negative numbers on the power. So for doing this, I need to imagine there's a number 1 right here. Imagine this is a fraction where all of this is the numerator and the number 1 the denominator. So what I need to do to get rid of the negative exponent is find the reciprocal. So that means that the number 1 would go to the top and all of this in the top would go to the bottom. However, whenever I make that movement from top to bottom, the negative 10 is going to become a positive 10. And this will be the simplified form of this power right here. Now, let's take a look at these other examples. So here, my base is m. I'm bringing down the m. I'm just multiplying now the two exponents that I have. 7 times 4 will give me 28. So it's m raised to the power of 28. This would be the simplified form for this power right here. Let's take a look at the next example. So I'm bringing down my base, in this case x, the base stays the same. Now the operation that I need to carry out here for knowing the exponent would be negative 3 times negative 2. Let's evaluate that. Here it's a negative times a negative will give me a positive, so that means that the simplified form is x to the 6th power. Now let's take a look at these two examples. I know that here we are not finding the power of a power anymore. However, we can still simplify these expressions because we can get rid of the parentheses. Here, I have the base 5, variable y, all of this raised to the power of 4. So what I'm going to do first is I'm working with the base and I'm raising it to the corresponding power. So 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 would give me 625. I'm going to write it there. And I keep the variable, and with this variable, I keep the original exponent, so that would be the simplified form of the expression right there. Now, in the next example, I have a fraction, so I'm going to begin working first with the numerator. So here, I will keep my variable n, and the n will be raised to the power of 2. In this case, the denominator has a constant, a number whose value I know. So I'm going to evaluate that exponent. Negative 7 to the power of 2 would be negative 7 times negative 7. Negative times negative results in a positive number. So that means that the denominator would be 49. And there I don't need to put any powers because I already evaluated. So that would be the simplest form of this power right here. I hope these explanations were useful. Good luck in your classwork.